Guys, good morning. This is Alex over at Chartech. I want to thank everybody for getting on this webinar and hearing what we have to say about network assessment stuff and how we're going to win some deals with it. You guys have heard me talk about this on almost every single sales training, speech, chat, conversation, academy, and man, I wouldn't be bringing it, I wouldn't even be wasting my time with this if I didn't think it was such a vital part of the sales process. But before we get into that, and before I introduce Mark and Kevin, let me just kind of give you guys a little heads up for 2014, what we have coming down the line. So as you guys know, some of you were, I see who registered, you guys were on the operations, in the Operations Academy we had last week, which was such a huge success. I think we had 107 people show up to Bakersfield on operations, and the breakouts and the sessions were just amazing. I had guys flying from Australia and running some of the keynotes, and it was Tim Brewer came down, and man, he was awesome. So once we get, if you didn't make it, those recordings will be posted on the Connect site so you can check it out and see what you missed. It was pretty wicked. Now, come February, into February, we have a CEO Academy coming up. And man, this is different than the CEO sales retreats I've done on the road. The CEO Academy is pretty wicked. I got some awesome speakers coming in as well. In fact, I got Matt Nacktrab coming from LabTech, CEO of LabTech. He's going to come down and chat with you guys about his growth from a two-man company all the way to, shoot, I don't know what they have, 200, 300 employees now, and he can relate with you on the pain of growing and wearing hats and when to take them off. But most of all, this academy is about, what do you do as a CEO? And it's not so much we know what we need to do, but how do we get to where we're wearing that hat the majority of the time, and how do we put in those SOPs, those processes that will give us the logistics and the facts and the data that we need to track as CEO, all the way from HR to financial to operational to sales and marketing. So you're going to see all these leaders come in, chat with you about it on a high level, and then we're going to have breakout sessions both days on those exact topics as well. So it's kind of cool. Now that's into February. Now March, we actually have a pre-day event happening in March as well, the day before the academy. So March is back to basics, okay? Foundations, and the pre-day is pretty cool. The pre-day is actually like managed services 101, okay, for people that are companies that are finally just now getting into it, and where do they start? Because over the last 5 years we've been training on managed services, and we've kind of just expected and it's been assumed that everybody already knows all the basic stuff, and we've always been teaching at this advanced level. So if you're a company that's just now getting into it, or you've been doing it and been having some challenges, we're going to take it all the way down to the kindergarten level, the pre-day. And we did this before, and man, we had a ton of people in there, and it was just awesome. So it's actually like a 3-day academy for you. And let's see, March. Oh yeah, March is cool too. March is foundations, and foundations we're going to talk about HR, we're going to talk about accounting, we're going to set up chart of account stuff and contracts, all the logistical stuff that you kind of gotta build your company from the bottom and build this great foundation so you can scale it, and you don't have to reinvent it 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and start all over. So you're at least set up from the beginning to grow large later without having to do some major changes. And then I'm back on the road end of March, guys. We're going to be in Austin doing a CEO sales retreat. So that's kind of cool. It's a 1-day deal. If you guys are in that area, man, I really recommend you getting into that, and it's kind of taking that CEO hat on, and it's only for CEOs. It's taking that CEO hat off and putting the sales hat on while you build your recurring revenue and how to structure your sales force and sales team for growth. But before we can do that, we got to sell ourselves. So we're going to try to get you out of the technical age and into the sales age and help you the best that we can. That's a really, really, really neat deal. And one more thing, guys, I want you to think about this. and this is coming up. This is February, oh shoot, when is it? I think it's the February 10th through the 13th. I got a couple spots left in my sales lab. So think about this. If you're having issues with your clients not seeing the value, or actually not the price is outweighing the value in your platinum offering or your all-in offering, okay, or maybe you're having issues converting those marketing leads that you're getting into those first appointments, or taking those first appointments and turning them into discoveries, you know, getting that client to allow you, or for him to see how credible you are, so he allows you to run one of these network assessments, okay? I mean, nowadays it's not as easy. People are so darn scared of what you're going to do and how you're going to screw things up. You know, so it's not easy to get people to just let you have free run of their network, okay? And again, what about presentation skills? If you're not confident in your presentation skills, or handling objections, or delivering the price, okay, or if your close rate just sucks, get in this sales lab, okay? There's a couple spots. I've guys, they've been proven to just really, really bring instant sales to your organization the first day you get back and you start setting up appointments. It's pretty awesome. So I got all that out of the way, guys. Now, just to set the stage here, I got Mark here from RapidFire. Okay, now Mark, man, this guy he is so cool. He's been in the industry now for, I don't know, what, 15 years, I think? 15 years dedicated to bringing these software solutions, okay, to our channel. Now, Mark's the VP of RapidFire. So I will tell you what's so cool about Mark. Besides him being in the trenches in our industry as well, way back when, okay, he deals with so many MSPs in our level. He has heard anything and everything, and he's such a likable and intangible guy that you can go up to him, and he's everywhere. Shoot, every time I'm in a different state, I see this guy, and he's very open to answering questions and helping you get in avenues of things you've never even thought about. Because he deals with so many different MSPs, he hears all the latest and greatest new ways of taking advantage of doing these network assessments. It's pretty cool. So I'm really excited. I want you guys to write questions down off to the side, and we'll get to them as we can. We got a lot of stuff to cover. And Mark is way more technical than myself. So I'm going to jump in and just, when he says things, I'm going to talk about how we utilize it here at ARC and Chartech and in our sales process. But for all the good information, man, you're going to listen to Mark. Mark, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Alex. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. We do see each other a lot on the road, and I enjoy getting out to, out to your place. Look forward to that in April as well. So I tell you what, without further ado, because we've got a lot of material to cover, so I'm just going to jump right in. And just to set everyone's expectations, this webinar really is tailored specifically for IT service professionals that are, looking to take it to the next level. I'm going to spend a few minutes to talk about the importance of performing network assessments, and that's for generating new business with new clients, as well as using it with existing customers, because so many of our existing partners do that to really help retain and show additional value there. As we get toward the middle of this, the meat of the presentation will cut over to our Network Detective tool. We're really proud of that. We'll go through a demonstration, and more importantly, Kevin Jones, our SE, is going to jump in and show you how you can use the information gathered from IT assessments really to build your business, close business, generate more revenues. And like we like to do at the end of the session, we've got some fantastic specials just for the Chartech community. So stay tuned.
Good. You got to take care of my Chartech guys.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about assessments. As service providers, it's so important that we do them, or really should do them. And there's a ton of great uses. They could be everything from general network and system level to deeper security and Exchange and SQL Server. And like Alex said, we speak to a lot of folks, and when we talk with folks in the community, the top uses range from everything from lead generation, pre-engagement checks and onboarding, all the way down, like I said, to regular use at all of their clients. And I'm going to spend a couple of minutes kind of to touch on this, and Alex, I know you've got a lot of feedback too that you'll share. So, like I said, at trade shows, on the phone, we speak with a lot of SPs, and it should be no surprise that a key area of focus is growing your business by adding customers. So how do you do that? I mean, marketing and lead generation, of course, and I'm not the expert in marketing and lead gen. See Alex and Emily for that. But, along with good tactics, a good list, and really good copy, you need a compelling offer or some sort of call to action to get prospects to raise their hand and say, just what I wanted today was a sales call from Alex or Mark Winter, right? But let me ask you, have you ever Googled your competition? One of the things that you notice is that a lot of them, not everyone, but a lot of them will offer a free or a low-cost network audit or network assessment. And how obvious? I mean, if you think about it, is there a better way to entice a prospect to let you in if you're not already familiar with them? You can offer them a free valuable service, right? Let them know how their current network's set up, how their current provider's doing. And at the same time, you get a chance to look under the hood, see what's maybe wrong with that network so you can highlight some issues, know what's there, and sell against it if you need to. And ultimately, if you were going to put together some sort of proposal to quote the opportunity, you would need some level of discovery anyway. So it's really just too perfect. But performing assessments can be extremely time-consuming, and very costly unless you've got the right tools. And, we think the right tools really should be non-invasive and leave nothing behind. And that's especially true if the prospect has an IT person or company, and they probably do, because they're not going to want you to tip them off that they're looking. So it needs to be automated. You can kind of kick off maybe a data collection, let it run. Well, you've got a chance to, sit down with the stakeholders or the business owners in that organization, learn about their business, their challenges, how IT is used, and, build rapport so that you can sell. And then, of course, any data collection really should be fast and problem-free. It should make you look good. And the end result has got to be reports that present the information in a very professional and well-organized manner. And of course, you're going to want it to have your branding, your colors, your client's name. And what you're looking for here is a way to show that, one, that you're professional, that you're thorough, their IT is maybe not being as handled as well as it could be. And of course, put together a proposal that goes along with that. But, if you are offering a low-cost or free assessment, you want to leave behind maybe that doesn't provide everything, but still gives good value and leaves a great impression of you. So, you got to be kind of careful there. So, Alex, I know you guys use Network Detective and do a lot of these.
Yeah, so let me chat a little bit about this, guys, because this is by far one of the key processes that you can marry into your sales process. Now, it's very, very important you understand when they agree to allow you to do a network assessment, that you now have all the information that's been going on in their network. Now, if you hand that over, they could pretty much take that network assessment and give it to any other IT company and say, hey, can you give me a quote on fixing all the crap that's wrong in this report? So with that being said, make sure that when your next steps after the assessment is to close on getting the presentation of the problems with the network and your implications because of the problems of the network. And what that means is you're not selling on a level that everybody else sells on, like an issue. When you run a network assessment, let's just say it identifies 25 people that have logins on the network, yet they only have 20 employees. And then maybe there's 5 people there that have been fired, no longer there, yet they still have admin rights. So it's one thing to bring that up. It's another thing to think about all the implications of having somebody that can still access that company's data. And not just that data, let's think about this. Payroll reports, credit card information, client information, price list, marketing strategy, bank accounts, invoices, quotes, proposals. And that's the kind of stuff you sell on. It's the implications, okay, of all the challenges that the assessment has found. Now, with that being said, just handing it over to them, okay, and letting them know there's a bunch of stuff there that's wrong, that's a small piece of actually getting the deal. So this is a whole conversation, there's no doubt about it, but what I'm getting at is use this report, okay, as the curiosity piece to getting what you want. Once you give it over to them, they really don't need to hear your solution, okay? they don't really need to listen to you or meet with you anymore because they got what they wanted to get. And then, of course, the client is always smarter than us. They like to make their own decisions on what to do and how to proceed. The deal is we're going to do this assessment, and then we're going to come back and meet with you and explain everything that's in here. And if there is a solution to make things better, we're going to let you know what that is as well. And that's how you properly position this, okay? Now, the free assessment, that's fantastic. I mean, but I will tell you, there's no value in free. So you need to understand there has to be some sort of value. It doesn't mean, okay, it doesn't mean that you charge everybody for your assessment, yet I have a lot of partners that do. But if you present it in such a way that if you're going to give them the notes, you're going to give them that binder and those hundreds of pages of everything and anything about their network, that's $5,000. Here you go. Everything's outlined. You can do whatever you want with the information. I'll explain it. Or if they agree to let you present what the problems are and then the solutions that come along with it from your company, well, we don't charge for that at all, and you can get that assessment for free. Does that make sense, Mark?
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, you're spot on, obviously. You know, it's got to have value, and you need to, if you do put it on your website and do want to offer it discounted or free, or like Alex just outlined, which I think is a fantastic idea, always assign a value to it, because, you know, free, who cares about free? It's only when they're getting something of value that it's important.
Now, here, and you're exactly right. Now, here's something to think about, guys. This can also be not something that you put on your website, although a lot of people do, okay? But just like Mark said, he said when you looked at all these people giving free stuff, oh my gosh. Hey, I'll tell you what, if you want to give something away for free, why don't you give away a couple hours labor for your technician? So can you imagine if they call and say, hey, I need to get a price on my computer getting fixed? You can do it, you can simply turn it around, ask a few diagnostic questions, you know, make sure they got a server, make sure they're a fit for you, and then say, hey, you know what, you're a new client. Let me come out. We're going to do a couple hours for free, and in return, you're going to allow me to run a network assessment. We're going to see if there's anything else that we can do for your company. And if it's done on that level, okay, instead of just advertising it like everybody else, big difference in getting first appointments and getting discoveries done that you can then present, because they're trading out, I'm not going to charge you for labor, for I'm going to listen to what you found. So anyways, we teach you all that in the lab. It's pretty cool.
Yes, you guys do. It's fantastic. So another way that you know, people we see using IT assessments, regardless of the tools you use. So, you know, whether or not you use it as lead gen, let's say you're ready to build your proposal to onboard a new client, whether that's block time or fully managed, and, you know, whether that's your platinum or other offer. You know, I think you're really going to need to do an assessment, because unless you're looking for problems, you really need the information that a IT assessment provides to properly quote the prospect. I hear people all the time tell me, and these are customers that I was just at a ConnectWise user group meeting, and some guy, I was talking to a prospect, and our users come up to me all the time, and they help me sell. They don't really sell, they just say what they like about the tools. And this guy says, yeah, I love it, saved my butt the other day. You know, the client told me I had 2 servers, but they actually had 4 VMs on each server, and I would have completely underquoted it. So, you know, getting back to this, it's really important to know what you're going to be supporting, how many workstations are active on the network, the type of apps they're running, the makeup of the PCs, right? Are they new? Are they old? What operating system are they running? How much RAM? On and on. Because this gives you an idea of what you're taking over, the types of issues you're likely to encounter, how needy that organization might be, right? You may need to spread some of that upfront cost over, you know, the 12 or 3-year period, 12-month or 3-year period. And then, you know, you got Active Directory. There's more to grasp there. Is it set up properly, well-maintained? Maybe it's overly complex. And then how secure is the network from the outside? So, you know, performing a detailed network assessment is really a necessary component of building that quotation and then putting together the plan to onboard that client. And if Exchange or SQL is something that you do and is part of the scope of your proposal, you want to include a scan of that too to see how well it's set up and how it's being used by the prospect. And of course, if you're looking at doing maybe or proposing an Exchange migration, you really want the deep level of understanding that a good tool can provide you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's really, really important here, guys, is now you have facts, okay? facts are so much easier to sell on than just a technician's word or assumptions or, industry says this, this, and this, and this. You know what? You have facts to show them that the way things are set up is a threat. And those go a long, long way when presenting your solution, because there is no doubt that they cannot stay status quo. And guys, understand this. We all have our competitors. We all have that computer guy down the road or across the way, or maybe it's Dell or whatever it is. But your number one competitor you need to think about is status quo. That is the client just not doing anything at all, not making those changes. Your number two competitor is them doing it themselves. Okay? So we need to kill those alternatives very, very early in the sales process. And this is a great way to do it, with facts.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you, Alex. So, another obvious way to use assessments is when you're onboarding new clients. A couple of things. So you need to have everything, all the information that, we just talked about in kind of putting together your proposal. But, you definitely want to make sure that you've got a baseline snapshot prior to onboarding so you know what's there and so that your help desk knows what's there. It's fantastic to have consistent documentation of all the assets that you're going to be supporting for your level 1, your level 2 guys. The reports are, on your network or in your PSA. They know exactly where to go to see, who's a member of the admin group or, what a machine looks like. So it's fantastic documentation. And I know you've got a lot of that in your PSA from your monitoring system, but, consider also things like Active Directory and network shares and who has permissions. So it's terrific information to have when you're bringing those clients on board so that you can, provide top-level support from day one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, boarding process is everything, guys, because here's the thing you have to remember about boarding. It's not about the salesperson or you, meaning the owner or the senior technician, understanding what's on the network. It's about being able to update your PSA with the proper configs and educate your entire team of what's going on. And then having everything in such a form that if you lose team members or you bring team members on, it's very easy for them to get up to speed on the client that they're taking care of. Or what if you're outsourcing to a help desk? You can't just say, okay, Mr. Help Desk, take care of my client. No, you got to be able to educate them as well. And the quicker and the faster and the more standardized standards you follow makes it easier for everybody, and ultimately the client is a lot happier. That boarding process is probably the thing that kills the client's satisfaction and loyalty and happiness within the first 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much fun is it to key in all the names and email addresses and phone numbers? I mean, what if you had a tool that, at the end of your IT assessment, you were able to, export or import, however you look at it, get that information into your PSA so you reduce the, the manual entry. It's error prone, happens faster, everybody's happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, another great way that folks use assessments is identifying new projects. And whether you're doing this at prospects or existing customer sites, it's often going to turn up the opportunity for new projects because things change. Examples include, identifying systems that are maybe near capacity or old machines nearing their end of life. And so those turn into upgrade or migration projects, right? Think XP or Server 2003. That's very top of mind. Or maybe, like Alex said, you might have an Active Directory cleanup to fix group membership problems where people have unnecessary access to confidential information, or like he said, ex-employees with still active logins. That's a huge problem. And you can find those both in existing customers as well as in prospecting. Look for maybe inconsistent security policies across the network and find holes in security practices. Consider exchange migrations and whether you're taking them to, 2010, 2013 or to the cloud. Great opportunity for you. And having the documentation of the current exchange environment here really helps you, in a couple of ways. One, helps you better scope the project, gives you the documentation you need on mailboxes, distribution lists, mobile device use, and more. But before doing the migration. Sit down with a well-formatted, professional-looking report. Go through it with them. Maybe you don't need to input all these distribution lists, or maybe they've got the wrong members. Perhaps you don't want to migrate every folder, and there's some things that the company you're doing the work for doesn't want you to do. So absolutely terrific for that kind of thing. And right after you're done, you're now providing documentation for the work you did. And in a lot of cases, not only do you want to have that documentation, but just having it there by itself will help you get paid even faster.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Now, and here's the thing that you really need to think about. When it comes to identifying new projects, this isn't just about your pocketbook needs immediately. This is about you being involved with your client at a completely different level. So if you think about this, let's look at, think about the last, I don't know, where are we at now, 40 years or whatever with technology? First we started out with this fragmented market, right? And then pretty soon standards were developed by IBM. And then after that, the clones came in and all this hardware compatible stuff. Then there was a moment in time when that value shift was made from hardware to software, all right? And then eventually that value shift was made from software to services. Okay, and that's kind of where you're seeing it. But now what's happening, you always want to know what you need to start preparing for. Now the value shift is more about from services to business productivity. Okay, that's where people are going to be looking for you as an IT professional to bring value. All this other shit that we do, talking about monitoring and network admin and replacing parts, that's all going to be just permissions to play features. You have to have that. That's like a no kidding, you do that, well good, okay, because everybody else does that. What else are you going to be doing, and how are you going to take my company to the next level? So with that being said, when you're identifying projects, okay, it doesn't mean that you're just identifying a bunch of ways that they can spend money. It's you're identifying what needs to happen on the network, and then you build out their technology roadmap to work with them on the next budget for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out, depending on what's most urgent and what needs to happen. Okay, now you start looking at when you start doing your technology business reviews, okay, or your QBRs with your client, and you've identified projects that they can start working in their budget for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and start seeing trends, and then they can start finding the money early on and expecting it. Things aren't brought up as, oh, by the way, we need new hard drives on the server all of a sudden. Mr. CFO, I need you to pull $10,000 out of your rear, right? This is something that was brought out. Hey, you know what? Right now, your hard drives are about 60, 70% full. We're cool for a while, but start thinking December 2014, we're going to budget some money, and here's the amount, and this is what we're going to do. That's how you use that. Totally different look on what we do as technology professionals. But that's where everything's going, guys. It's transferring from services to business productivity.
Yeah, fantastic point. You're absolutely right, Alex. And if maybe you don't have a DBA or you're not a DBA, but if you've got the right tools, you could consider, adding things like SQL Server, maybe not doing performance tune-ups, but add that as something that, you can examine, take a look at, and even if you don't have the folks on staff, you can either recommend or bring somebody in to work under your brand to get stuff done, and that elevates you from just the IT network guy to the business level like Alex was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you start thinking about, Mark, you start thinking about how mobility is changing, right? And anytime you have somebody mobile, there's threats that need to be covered up. We need to identify them consistently. So yeah, there's just so much good stuff with this. All right, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, and that ties directly into regular customer checkups. And Alex, you already just mentioned do this as part of your QBRs, whether it's finding projects. Use it to add value, make yourself stand out. So you've got reports from your ticketing system, and you're meeting your SLAs, and all that's great and wonderful. And you've got stuff for monitoring system. Are we disk space okay? But once again, you can really add value to that whole thing. Audit yourself, audit your RMMs. make sure that things aren't slipping by in Active Directory. You know, do this on a general technology appraisal level. Make sure that you're not supporting mobile devices that might have been added to your network without your knowledge. So you kind of use it to true up. Security assessments. Check for internal vulnerabilities or external vulnerabilities. These problems change all the time. And, you know, holes get opened in the network inside or out, and you need to be able to, you know, really help your people, your customers, know that their networks are safe, that, you know, they'll truly sleep better at night if you're able to provide them a quarterly report. And we've got so many folks who take our security module, and they're not currently on the hook to do this, so it's something they can add on. Or if you want to just add it into your existing, that's fine too. You've got a tool that makes it very inexpensive to do. So they sell a managed security service. They add it on $199, $299, $399 a quarter, depending upon the market that they're in and the vertical of the customer. A fantastic potential add-on for you. Or include it and make yourself stand out. We already talked about looking at Exchange environments in SQL. So there's a lot of really great reasons to run this regularly on your existing customers, you know, and make it part of your QBRs.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And those QBRs, guys, that's where all the indirect selling happens. I can't tell you, even if we get called in on a QBR that's premature and they just an emergency QBR they want to have, and it's to chew our butts. Regardless, when we're in front of that client, for whatever reason, we fix the challenge, and then they always want something else. So the more you can get there and have meat of your QBR and not just show up with the attitude of, well, hey, how are things going? Cool, okay, fantastic, blah, 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 and really make it, you know, worth everybody's while, they become great selling meetings, or better yet, buying meetings.
Absolutely. All right, so a lot of great reasons you should be using assessments to both do business and retain customers. But it's expensive unless you've got the right tools. So, you know, it doesn't require very time-consuming data collection and tedious report generation. You know, I'm sure you all love to write reports, right? So that's where Network Detective comes in. Give you a brief description of how it works. Network Detective is specifically designed so that you can run a data collector on your prospect or client network without installing software. And that's very key. It's completely non-invasive. There's no registry changes. Nothing's installed in add-remove programs, right? And that's especially important when you're prospecting. And it works very quickly. Scans can run in as little as 30 to 40 minutes for smaller networks. Gathers the data, produces a zip file you bring back to your office. You import it into the Network Detective application. And that's where you'll set up your branding. Of course, you could save your defaults with your logos, etc., and generate the reports. And it's easy to do. You know, I talk to technical salespeople all the time who go on site, run the data collector during their intro meeting. It gathers the data while they're running through their interview, walking around the building, building rapport, like I said earlier. It's just fantastic. So a little bit on how this differs, though, from RMM systems. And this is very important because I get this question asked to me all the time. So they say, you know, I've got Kaseya or Enable. Why would I need Network Detective? Well, sure. You can install a bunch of licenses or put a probe out there for, you know, a few days or a week or longer. But what does that cost in terms of licenses, let alone your time and effort? And what happens in a prospecting situation, right? They're not your customer yet. Something goes wrong. I mean, consider you're putting agents out there. You're touching the network. One person I spoke with joked he got blamed when the coffee pot quit working after installing some agents. Seriously, though. If you go in, install software, something goes wrong, who are they going to blame? Themselves or current IT? No, they're going to come back to you. You are the last one there. You might even get a chance to fix the problem for free, which might not be a bad thing, but you're not leading with the good foot. As I mentioned, Network Detective is completely non-invasive. You run the data collector without installing anything, bring the data file back, and build the reports. You know, on the other hand, you know, it differs and is very complementary to the performance-based metrics and stats that your monitoring system will give you, especially agent-based systems like, you know, Kaseya, et cetera, which will be running for weeks or longer. But that's not normally appropriate for new prospects. And even with existing customers. There's a great reason, like I said earlier, to run Network Detective on your existing customers where monitoring is running. And that's because monitoring systems don't typically perform ongoing analysis and reporting of things like Active Directory, nor do they perform external or internal vulnerability scans, nor do they look for open ports on, inside the network looking for potential security holes. They don't provide professional documentation on things like network shares, who has access to, payroll information and that kind of thing, and the security policies. And none that I'm aware of do a deep dive into Exchange or SQL. And using Network Detective regularly is going to do all that for you. And there's even a change report in Network Detective so that you can, compare against the baseline, have a much shorter report, and quickly identify systems you might not be charging for instance, in your managed services. So, I hope I've given you a couple of things to think about why, IT assessments really should be a key component of everything from prospecting and onboard to your regular health checks. So, Alex, any thoughts here?
Man, you know what? I mean, you guys, it's another tool for your box, okay? You pull it out when you need it, and I mean, it's as simple as that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm right with you.
Absolutely. So, I'm going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. So, the way it works, there's just a few steps to performing assessments with Network Detective. First, you'd kick off what we call an external vulnerability scan so it can check from the outside in. You'll run the data collector from the domain controller of the network. I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. If there's other data collection you want to do, you can do it at the same time the other one's running, so it doesn't really cost you any extra time. Bring the data file back, like I said earlier, create and brand those reports. So very quickly, here's what it looks like to initiate the vulnerability scan. Starting IP and ending IP address. Can't get any simpler than that. Do it a day ahead of time so the data is ready when you're ready to run the reports. On site, on the customer's network, select the type of scans you want to do, and basically this is next, next, next. We've made it as simple as we can here. Usually you'll use the domain admin credentials. You can specify them, which domains you want in a domain-based network. Normally it's just next here. Enter the customer's domain so that we can do a who is query and MX record lookup for you and include that in the report. Sometimes there's a lot of great information there. You can put in multiple domains if they have more than one domain. What is the IP address range inside the network you want us to scan? We'll pull up the information from the NIC card that it was running from. But if they've got multiple locations, you can enter additional subnets here for us to scan. Very flexible. Typically, you just hit next. We'll scan the network and read information from SNMP. We'll run Microsoft's Baseline Security Analyzer for additional information. We'll test to see if content filtering is on. It's a great way to upsell if it's not. Click Verify and Run, and say where you want the output file. It does its thing, and typically, let's say it's a 256 IP network with a few servers, 30, 40 machines. That can be 45 minutes or so to run. Back at your office, you're going to bring the data files back. You'll import them in. Enter, who the report is prepared for, your customer's name, report prepared by you. You can change the cover page disclaimer. Bring your logos in so that they're on the cover pages and the header of each machine. We give you a number of different layouts to choose from, so you can kind of customize this or tailor it to yourself or your customer. Use any of the predefined color palettes or enter your own. And we have a number of cover page images that you can choose from: automotive, legal, retail, hospitality. If you want to tailor it to the kind of vertical, even import your own logos. Let it generate the reports. That can take, depending upon how big the network, 4 to 5, 6 minutes usually, and you're done. So at this point, let me turn this over to our sales engineer, who's, I think, chomping at the bits to say a few words. He's going to take you through a few of the reports, kind of show you where you can find information, how you might use it to really help, create new revenue opportunities for yourselves, help close business, and use it in retaining existing customers. Kevin?
Thanks, Mark. And thank you, everybody, for the time today. As soon as I can get a little access, I'll be showing my screen here. There we go. Let's see, which screen do we want to show today? How about we show that one? How's that look on your end, guys?
Perfect.
Good.
Perfect. All right. So kind of ran through the high level as far as, ways to use the reports, ways to use the tools, et cetera. So I'm going to kind of run through these pretty quickly. I'll show you some reports and kind of touch on some of the points that Alex mentioned earlier. And at the end of the day, it's about getting the prospects on board, and then once they're on board, making sure they're happy. That's really what it boils down to as far as how to use the reports in your assessment process. And so the first two essentially out of the five are the lead generation and the pre-engagement activities. And Alex, spoke about, how do you go about doing that? Yes, some folks will market the service as a free. There are other ways to do it. Alex had mentioned, if you've got a call for someone who's got, an ad hoc or fix, what have you, leverage that time that resource on your end is going to be out at the prospect and or customers to really just start the data gathering process. So how you go about your, lead gen or pre-engagement activities, it really boils down to you just got to get the content, okay? And the content is going to be based on A, how well their current provider is delivering, and then B, based on that level of service, what is going to be their exposure to risk, okay? So keep that in mind. And the first one that I'll show you today is a report for the users and patching section, okay? Now, what we're looking at here, okay, you've done the assessment, you've got your data, and now you need to present the findings. Well, like Alex has said, you could dump this report, and I'll scroll through it real quick, in their lap, and there's quite a bit of data. Okay, well, that's all well and good. But more importantly, when you present these findings, you need to correlate the impact to these data points. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at a username. Is the account enabled? Does the password expire? And when was it last logged in? Okay. So this is where you can correlate items specific to, let's say, if you've got a list of, let's say, 20 full-time employees that are on the books, but they've got 40 accounts that are active. Well, there's going to be some gaps here that need to get fixed. Specifically, if you've got an active account for somebody who's no longer there, then your exposure to risk is that they could get access to your systems. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff.
Absolutely. And Kevin, this report right here has sold so many freaking deals for us, because what it does is it kills the alternative, whatever it might be. It kills the alternative of status quo. It kills the alternative of them doing it themselves, and it kills the alternative if they have an IT guy right now that is just not paying attention to what's going on, and it really brings value that they need somebody else doing their network admin, because right now this is what's at risk. These 5 people no longer work here. 2 of them might even work for the competitor, and they have access to popcorn off 10 different reasons why. And man, I can't tell you what we've sold with this. It is amazing.
And like Alex says, I mean, you've got either an internal resource or external provider who's been doing whatever it might be, A, B, or C. But when you're able to deliver this content, both in the data scan, like Mark had mentioned, it takes, 50 workstations, 5 servers, about, 30, 45 minutes to gather the data points. And then you can do a result set back from a presentation perspective and show them this type of content in that amount of time. Okay, then what are they going to be thinking as far as the follow-up, as far as your service delivery? I mean, if you can get this level of detail, like right here, this is a patch summary, okay? Great, all well and good. But what we do is we break it down into not just operating system, but also line of business application systems, okay? So at the bottom here, you see SQL Server. Okay, so if they got a line of business apps running and you can show them that, hey, you guys aren't up to date with your patches and security, that's a pretty big exposure as far as what their level of risk is currently, and then what you can do on the back end to help them out. So.
Because again, here are facts, guys, because right now without this report, your sales pitch is something like this. Well, your network's probably full of network holes, and it's probably not real secure, and you're probably not compliant, and there's no doubt a lot of people might have extra accounts on their server that they don't even know about. And in their head, they're thinking, yeah, that's all those other people. Our shit's fine. Okay? So it's a different engagement when you say, well, our engineer was going through your systems and running their tools and assessments, and this is what they found, and this is why this is a threat. That's different than giving them the assumptions that something could be wrong and that it could be a horrible, horrible result. Big, big difference, man. People get sold on facts, not just the slight chance that it might be them that's having the issue.
So, and like you said, you know, this is kind of goes a little bit deeper as far as their exposure to risk. Okay, so again, here's another current state snapshot you can provide them. What we're looking at right here, these are devices in the current state as far as consistency. Okay, how consistent are their devices from a security standpoint with antivirus, spyware, firewall, and backup? Okay, so this breaks every device down. Okay, now Mr. Prospect, you state that everything's all well and good, but you don't even have consistencies when it comes to security standards as far as what controls what to prevent viruses and everything else from running amok, okay? So again, it goes back to correlating their exposure to risk, which then, okay, inevitably leads to the question as far as, well, does your current in-house guy know about these problems? Does your current managed service provider know about a problem? Okay, well, if they do, well, that's pretty scary.
The neatest thing about this, Kevin, is we don't have to ask them that, because
no, it's kind
they
of
know in their head that's what everybody, that's the elephant in the room everybody's thinking about right now, and we don't have to say anything. It's a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah, it lays itself out by default, you know.
And now you're not bad-mouthing.
Exactly, exactly. You can sit there and point fingers, etc. Like Alex has said, is industry standards, and I'm sure you guys aren't doing well, and we can find that out for you. Or you can just simply, here's the data. You know, it wasn't me, it was you. But you don't point that out. But you know, essentially, that's where the conversation goes. Okay. So once you got them on board, okay, you need to get them onboarded, right? You need to make sure that it's done quickly and easily, right? So the data that we provide in the reports, you know, we're talking, these are word-friendly reports that you can present to your customers. However, okay, sometimes you need this data in a little bit more flexible format, right? What we're looking at here, this is just all the data that's in the full detail Word report. What we do is we break it down for you, okay, so that if you need to save it into a, you know, CSV file to populate your internal systems, or like it says right here, if you've got Autotask or ConnectWise, we can auto-populate those config items. And again, it's a matter of getting them on board as quickly and as accurately as possible, and that's another way you can use the reports. Then, discovering selling projects, okay? What's going to happen is stuff's going to bubble up as you either do your front-end assessment or through your recurring assessments, all right? The report I'm going to pull up right now is coming from our Exchange module, and it's every line item detail as it pertains to the Exchange instance. So let's say they're sitting on 2003 Exchange server. It's going end of life and they need to migrate. Okay, well, you can use these data points, okay, to define the new target instance. Okay, and the great thing about this one is it will run against a 365 instance. So let's say they want to go to Office 365. You can run this against their existing infrastructure, define the new one in the cloud, and then once you're ready, okay, to flip the switch, you run an assessment on that Exchange Online instance, and then you have an apples-to-apples comparison. Okay? Makes sense?
No, absolutely.
I apologize, I'm kind of rolling through this because I'm trying to keep track of time. But then it comes down also from adding value to the customers from a routine assessment. Okay? When I say routine, have something scheduled with your customers on an ongoing basis, quarterly, biannual, whatever works for them. Okay? And one of the neatest parts about it is now that you've established the baseline, okay, yep, wrong one, let's find the right one. You can then start to highlight changes, okay? So this is the change report. Again, going back, we're running under the assumption that you've established a baseline by performing an existing assessment, an existing scan. You perform another one, and then one of the outputs is going to be this, which is the change report. Okay, and notice these are highlighted in yellow. Yes, our reports do show you a lot of data, but in this particular use case, you have to be able to see what data has changed, okay? So when you've got to renew contracts, you've got to figure out, oh, what new devices have been added, what new users have been added, okay? These little bits kind of come in handy when it comes time to make sure that you're getting paid right for what you're supporting, all right? And what else we got? Share permissions, one of my favorites. Let's see here. okay? Your routine meetings with the decision makers, okay? Moving from the, bits and bytes level, you want to get into a position where you're performing quality content and consultative services on both the technical and the business side of things. Use this report. It's the share permission reports, okay? Big deal, you say. Well, it is a big deal because you sit down with the owner, you're going to be able to line item out every single share that they have within their network, and more importantly, who has access to those shares, okay? So if they're in a situation, again, that they've got credit card information, payroll, yada, 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 you can show them who has access, who doesn't, and then they can make the appropriate changes, okay?
And man,
and then the last one I'll show real quick.
That is just, all that stuff is so great, and it is such a huge value to everything. I want to make sure you guys understand, though, a lot of these, when you're using this in your sales presentation, don't get too technical with them. Learn, practice, and summarize what each report showed and give it to them in the terms of implications, because they are not technology people. Now, if you're dealing with an IT staff or whatever, that's different. But in general, the majority of our clients, anywhere from 10, 20, 30 employee companies, you want to talk to them on the overall challenge your tool found, okay, what it is, speak English to them, and then relate it to implications. And then you have your report back here on the facts to back up all your implications and your challenges. And then if you need to pull it out, you can then go to each report and show, see, look at this guy. He's done this, this, and this, and this. And look how many people have access to payroll. Look how many people have access to bank accounts, whatever that might be. But please remember to keep it on an implication level, English-wise, what that means and how that hurts their business, and not so much on the technical side. That technical side is just for you, for the facts to back up everything you're saying.
Right. And you can dig yourself in a hole, like Alex has said. You want to get technical with them, well, they're not going to get technical with you. What they're going to do is they're going to pull in their resource that they're currently getting services from, and you can go head-to-head and have fun with that. No thanks, okay? Keep it at a high level. Keep it in discussion points that they understand. Then you won't have to loop anybody else in on the back end. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yep, absolutely, man. Because if you're not speaking English, they got to bring in a translator, and they're just going to go to their cousin's best friend who has a better IT guy because he fixed grandma's and cousin's computers and helps you out all the time and, really doesn't know anything.
And again, back to the formatting, right? SQL Server, okay, this last report. This one right here provides them, both of you, with an overall health summary of SQL Server. SQL Server can be very confusing, okay? Well, this is pretty simple. Here's the overall health. Then we break it down into 4 settings, okay? 4 layers: settings, file, resource, and the agent. Okay, well, big deal, okay? And just one of them, okay, the settings, okay? We see right here, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend you go line item by line item. What I showed this to you is that we offer up value as far as demonstrating best practices from the line of business systems now, okay? So you're elevating yourself to the point where you can state, listen, your ERP is running on SQL. By the way, here's how it's configured. You might want to do something about that. And our reports do that by default. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Mark.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Kevin. That was good stuff.
Fantastic stuff, Kevin. So let me see if I can get this turned back up on my side.
So guys, while he's doing that, when you think about this, the key here in being very, very, to get the most out of the results that you've ran with this report is to be able to marry the challenges that you found with their network within your presentation when it talks about the problems or challenges piece of it before you deliver your solutions on each individual piece. So every single challenge that you might show up, they all speak to a different part of your offering when you're selling managed services. You just don't spit out everything at once. You slowly just release the challenges, because what it comes down to it is you want to think about how many reasons do my clients need to buy? How many reasons do I want to give them to buy from us? Okay? And it goes back to the issues and implications. If everybody in the world is just selling on the issues, which are, security holes, all right, slow response time, old equipment, slow internet, shit like that, those are the issues. we want to talk about the implications of all those. And you can multiply those 4 issues by another 20, and now you have 80 reasons why they need to buy from you or why they want to buy from you, not just the same 4 that every other competitor has. Learn to marry the reports with your presentation, okay? And man, it will change your life when you're presenting. And that's what we kind of do in the sales lab, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I've seen the sales lab. I think it's terrific stuff. And you're absolutely right. It's everybody can point at issues and drop a report on a desk, and some people sell that way. But if you can pull out the implications, like Alex said, I mean that's key to setting yourself apart. And let me just point out that those reports that Kevin showed you, that wasn't all that we have. And all of the sample reports, the same things that you were just showing snippets of, are on our website for your download and review. They are PDF versions, but what you get with Network Detective are the actual native documents. So, you know, you get Word and Excel documents of this information, so that, and one of the reports that you get, Kevin showed you one of them here, in each module, there is what we call a risk report, which becomes your executive summary, and it's a Word document. We automatically put in the issues and some resolution information, but you know, with your analysis, take the time to key on a couple of those and embellish that with some of the implications. It's a great way to deliver that to your customers. So, you know, just to kind of quickly tie it all back together, you know, again, Network Detective offers you the ability to run non-invasive scans quickly and easily. And again, that way, you know, you're not touching a prospect network. It's key. You get to customize and brand the reports with your logos, your colors, etc. They're Word and Excel documents, like I just said. Bring them into your own templates, embellish the reports. Delete things you don't want to talk about. Don't sell past the close. Focus on the key issues. You can pre-populate your PSA systems with information from Network Detective to save yourself some time, you know, eliminate the arduous task and, you know, potential errors that you'd be keying in. You know, it all boils down to closing business. So help identify the issues, drive toward the implications like Alex said, and close more business faster. And if you are offering audits as a part of your lead generation, you know, keep in mind it costs money. Your time is money when you are trying to, you know, spend 1, 2, 3, 4 hours of engineering time to gather data. You know, imagine being able to participate instead of 1 or 2 assessments a month, because you don't want to spend, you know, 8 to 10 hours of engineering time a month on these things. You know, imagine being able to participate in so many more of these because you've got a tool that does it much faster and automatically generates those reports that you can then analyze and make your proposals around. It's fantastic stuff. So very quickly, the way Network Detective is licensed. There are 4 separate modules. There's the general network and system level. There's one focused on security, and then we've got 2 even more specialized, one for Exchange and one for SQL. And you saw some of the reports there. I'd encourage you to take a look at the website. You know, that's the documentation you get. I'm not going to go through all these. The network assessment module, great for both prospecting situations, documenting the network, doing the onboarding, helps find you problems. A number of reports involved here, including the XP migration report. So whether it's existing customers or new opportunities, terrific. Security assessment module plays great with the network module when you're doing prospecting or running it regularly on existing customers, or using this to add an ongoing managed security service that you can upsell and charge additional money for. And this contains the share permissions that Kevin and Alex were just talking about. Fantastic stuff to have on a regular basis for your customers. The Exchange module, again, a lot of different reports, as does the SQL Server.